In this lesson, let's look at PHP loops. So what are loops and why we need to use loops? So for example, if you want to execute the same block of code over and over again, so let's say for example, you have 1,000 users in your database and you want to understand which users are paid users and which users are free users. So you'll have to go through each of these 1,000 users and then see their data, whether they're paid or free. So in order to do this, you cannot definitely manually do this. So you need to execute over one data over another. So in order to do this, we need loops. So loops, if you want to reiterate a block of code over and over again, we use loops. There are 4 types of loops in PHP: the while loop, the do while loop, the for loop, and the for each loops. So these loops do different tasks in different ways, and let's go through them and then identify how we can use all these 4 different types of loops. So to kickstart, I'm going to create a new file called loops.php and then create our PHP script and then end it. And inside here we can get started with some while loops. So I'm going to leave a comment and then say while loops. At the same time, let's go to our Safari and let's go here and then change this to loops.php. And now we have that. We have this in our while loop. And now let's get started to first identify a scenario. So for example, let's say you want to print from 1 to 10 using a while loop. How you can print from 1 to 10 using a while loop is you're first going to define, let's first define a number, or num is equal to, let's say 1. So I just defined a simple variable with the value 1. And now I'm going to create a while loop. How you can create a while loop is you're going to say while, which is the keyword, open bracket, and then we are going to say the condition. How many times this while loop should iterate and on what condition? That's the condition you're going to have here. So I'm going to say here num is, let's say, until num is less than 10. And now if you go and then open curly brackets, close curly brackets, inside here, this is the body of the while loop. In any PHP and most of the other programming languages, if you have curly brackets, that means open curly bracket or close curly bracket, that means the body of that specific code snippet. So here, for example, the while loop body, and inside here you're just going to do what we are going to do, what we are going to print. So I'm going to say here echo the variable, and then I'm going to say num plus plus. I'll explain to you what that is in a moment, but I'll just show to you what the output would be first. Let's save this project. Let's head back in Safari and then refresh. As you can see, it has printed from 1 to 9. Now let's see what this is and how this works. So what happens here is, first of all, you define this variable with the value 1. Second, you start the while loop, and then this right here is the condition. The condition is num, which is this num variable, less than 10. So it comes to this while loop, it checks whether num is less than 10, meaning 1 is less than 10. If 1 is less than 10, it goes inside here and it echoes the num value. The num value right now is 1. So it echoes 1, and that 1 gets printed over here just like this, and then it says num plus plus. What is num plus plus? Well, basically, if you want to add 1 to the existing value of any integer variable, any number variable. So for example, you are going to say num is equal to num plus 1. Okay? Num is equal to the existing num value plus 1. Add a new value. This entire line shortened is num plus plus. So this entire line, you can have it here, no issue. Otherwise, if you short this out, that is num plus plus. So what you're doing is num plus plus, you're increasing the value of the num variable by 1. And now num becomes 2 here because you say num plus plus. And now it goes back into this condition because this is the loop, it iterates. It goes back into the condition and it checks whether 2 is less than 10. 2 is less than 10, it goes prints 2, and then now increase 2, add 1 to 2, it becomes 3. 3 is less than 10, and then it prints 3 right here, and go on and on and on and on up until 9. 9 is less than 10, and then prints 9, and 9 plus 1 is 10, and then it says 10 is less than 10. Is 10 less than 10? No. So if you want to print 10, what you would do is you would say equal. And then it will say, okay, print 10. And now it becomes 11. Is 11 less than or equal to 10? No. So then it gets over this while loop and then just continue your program. If you refresh now, you get 10. And a solution for this, because this is all displayed inline, would be simply inside this echo right here would be simply to have just a dot and then say br, just like that. And now it will just get nicely displayed vertically just like this. Alright, that is while loop. Up second, we are going to look at do while loop. So what are do while loops and how we can really use them? Do while is basically, for example here, let's say I'm going to say num is 11. If num is 11 and if it goes here, it says is 11 less than or equal to 10? No. So nothing gets executed. But for example, in a scenario where you want at least once the loop to run, at least once, it doesn't matter whether this is 11, 12, it doesn't matter whether this condition is met or not, but you want to run this loop at least once and then see whether you want to run it over 10 times or not. So that's where we use do while loops. So how do while loops work is, let's have a comment here. You're simply going to have a do command, do, and then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. This is the body of your do while loop. And after the curly bracket ends, this is where you're going to have the condition. You're going to have here while, open bracket, the condition. Let's use the same condition. Num is less than is equal to 10. And now I'm going to say semicolon, the end of the line. So this is the format of the do while loop. And if I just now go here and then say echo num, I will just copy this and paste it down. Okay, and then I will save it and get back into Safari, refresh. As you can see, only 11 has been printed. Here nothing gets printed. Here only 11 get printed. It is because num is 11. So let's now take a little walk through here. So num variable value is 11. It goes inside this do loop and it executes echo 11 and it prints out here. And now it becomes 12. And what happens here? Now it goes back into this while condition and it checks is 12 less than or equal to 10? No, so it gets outside. If you have 1 here, let's go refresh, all the things will be printed. I have another question for you. How do we identify whether these things got printed from the while loop or from the do while loop? If I delete while loop, as you can see, nothing happens because after you execute this value, after you execute this while loop, the value of num is already, so for example, if I print here, if I say echo br, 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 and within this, if I say here, let's say if I say print num, and then of course I have the semicolon, see the value is already 11 because once you have executed this, the value has been already executed. So let's just comment this for a moment so that only the do while loop gets executed. And as you can see, 1 to 10 is printed. So 1 comes here, goes inside, prints, and now it becomes 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 10? Yes, goes here and executes. And then again comes here, is 3 less than or equal to 10? Yes, and executes. Similar to while, that's exactly how this works. But as I said before, it runs at least once, whereas this doesn't run if the condition is false. That is do while and this is while. The third thing that we have to look at is for loop. So for loop is also one of the most common loops and most common used loop types in the entire world. And for loop works in a completely different way. So for example, for loop, this is how for loop works. I'm going to say for, which is the keyword, and then open bracket, close bracket, and then open curly bracket, close curly bracket, where the body is. Inside the brackets, we not only have the condition, but we have 3 different scenarios. We can create our new variable. Let's say x is equal to 0. It's just a variable name with the value 0. And then I'm going to say x, which is the variable name. You're going to have a semicolon and you're going to say x. And now here, this is the condition. I'm going to say x is less than 10. And the third value is x plus plus. So this condition and this addition and this variable declaration, all these 3 are combined in your for loop together into one single line, divided each by this single semicolon. First of all, you define the variable with the value. Second, you have the condition, and third you have increasing the value so that this loop can happen. Let's see how this process works, but here inside I'm going to say a number and I'm going to display X for you. If I save this, get back to Safari and then refresh, it says num is 7. Okay, let's just make this a lot better by providing a BR. As you can see, there's 1 0 to 9 because we started from 0 and this doesn't have an equal mark. So let's just see how this process happens. Alright, so right now X is 0. It then goes and checks the condition. The condition is X is less than 10. 0 is less than 10. It gets inside. It gets inside. It doesn't execute this. It gets inside after this condition. It gets inside simply. And now it prints num is equal to 0. And now what happens is after it prints, after it executes the bodily functions, it goes back here. And it says now X is plus equal 1. So X becomes 1. And from here it jumps directly to the condition. And now X is less than 10. Is 1 less than 10? Yes. Goes back here. Executes. Gets back here. And now it becomes 3. From here directly jump into condition. Execute the condition. Execute the body, get back here, increase the value, again the condition, the body. So that's how it happens. Execute the body, get into this addition and then to the condition and then again execute the body and repeat the same thing. So that's 4 loops. The most easier loop out of all of these things is probably the for each loop. How you can create a for each loop is, let's just say for each loop. And for each loops are actually used in order to basically loop through arrays. And as I have created an array before, let's go to this arrays.php page and let's take this cars array and copy this entire line and then get this into our loops. I have that variable now, which is an array variable. And now I want to go through each of these values inside my array and print each of these one by one. So if I want to do that, I can use a for each loop. I'm simply going to say for without a space each, which is the keyword, open bracket, close bracket, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And inside the brackets, I'm going to define first the array that I want to go through. And that array is cars array. And now I'm going to hit a space and have the keyword as, which means as, and hit a space again and create our own little variable to be, that variable will have the values of each of these. So for example, here I'm going to say cars as, I'm going to say car. Let me explain what that is in a moment. So what happens here is cars variable, the cars array, it comes here and it basically splits all the variable data, all these 4 values, and then equate them into this car variable one by one. So if I go here and then say echo car, what would happen? I'll also say br. What would happen here is it will display all the cars one by one. If I go back into Safari, refresh, as you can see it says Toyota, BMW, Honda, Tesla. The reason how this happens is it basically breaks down all the variables, all the data that you have inside the cars array, and one by one equates them here. So first of all it equates Toyota, it goes inside here, prints Toyota, comes back here and then it equates the second value, which is BMW, to this car variable, and then comes down here and prints BMW, do the same thing, and then print it out. So that is how we use for each, which is pretty easy and really modern. These are the 4 types of loops that you have in PHP, and once we are doing like projects, you can really understand where you can place them in practical terms. And actually, as I said before, if you want to go through users, you definitely use loops. And if you want to go through variables, and if you want to go through arrays, as you can see here, you use loops.